This is a commentary track for John Carpenter's The Thing on DVD or Blu-ray. This commentary track begins as soon as the text "A Universal Picture" fades onto screen. Play the movie from that point after the following countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Hello everybody, and welcome to another Plague, I guess, commentary track. This time it's my favorite movie, actually. The Thing by John Carpenter, 1982. Alright, with me today is Paige and Pat. Say hello, you two.
Hello.
Alright, so to cover all of our bases, I've watched this movie a whole lot. Pat, how many times have you seen this?
I don't know, about 10, 15 times.
Alright, how about you, Paige?
I've seen it once, and I was kind of drunk, so I don't remember all of it, but I do remember enjoying it.
Good.
Oh, I don't remember.
I actually wanted this little dichotomy thing going on, because I thought it'd be good to have one person that either had never seen it or couldn't remember it because they were in a drunken stupor.
Well, you got me. Here
What
I
about
am.
a regular torpor?
That would also be fine. All right. So, something people might wonder whenever I say that this is my favorite movie is this doesn't really seem like the kind of movie you would like, Plague, or Eli, whatever you want to call me. And that's actually true. This really is not the kind of movie I typically do like. Most of it, not many things are like this to me. I'm not really a prisoner to nostalgia for anything, but I did watch this really, really early into my life, and it was a very formative movie for me, so this is my one sort of exception to my rule of don't let things that you watch when you were little rule your life. But this definitely has. So already starting out, this already is one of the few flaws I think that this movie has. I wish that it had not opened with a UFO.
Oh, really?
I think it's a little bit hokey. And I think the fact that it shows this is sci-fi, obviously it's sci-fi, but I think that kind of diminishes it a little bit. The opening, though, is awesome. That title.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's so cool.
As I recall, they did that by layering some paper into a fish tank, I think, and having
Really?
fire burn it away from the inside.
Pat, I think you said that this is your favorite movie, or at least one of your top.
I believe it is
as
up
well.
there, maybe my favorite movie.
There's a lot of people's favorite.
It's one of the only good things a relative ever did was recommend this movie to me.
Oh.
I also had someone else competing with you two for commentary. Dragon, Dropout Dragon, if you remember him, Pat. You had a conversation with him once. I think this is also his favorite movie. But I made an agreement with him that maybe in the future I'll do some sort of a gangster film or something, like Casino or something like that with him later on. Sorry, Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, we win.
Did you see recently in the news there was a rectangular iceberg found, and there was a stabbing at an Antarctic research station?
Jesus, really?
Yeah, there's been a lot of the Thing jokes going around immediately before this recording, so this is gonna kind of date this, but yeah, a perfectly rectangular sheet of ice was floating around down there, and someone got stabbed. And Wilford Brimley mentioned it on his Twitter, and I said, "Come on, Wilford, you don't want to hurt nobody," and he liked my post.
And you were so happy about it that you sent me a picture of it.
Like, yes, I got it. Because that's one of my favorite lines from this film. There's a lot of things I love about this film. I think that the Norwegians here are actually members of the filming crew.
Oh, yeah?
I believe so. At least one or two of them are. And I think this dog's name is Jed.
Oh.
It's actually a half wolf.
Cool.
Which is one of the reasons why it acts the way that it does.
I'm such a big fan of this opening because it's really slow and it makes no sense.
This is one of the best ways to...
upon first viewing, anyway.
There's different kinds of horror films. And I've made it no secret that I really enjoy more suspense-based or things that are mysterious as opposed to things that are just like Friday the 13th or Halloween or something like that.
Right.
And this is kind of up there as far as just setting a weird tone to where you don't really know what's going on.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, there's obviously there's a big man and a knife. He's going to stab you. That's spooky to a degree.
Yeah.
But, like, looking around going, oh, man, I don't know what's going on, man. Everyone's freaking out. It could all be weird monsters. No, we're not. No.
Well, doesn't this combine? It's also somewhat of a whodunit.
Yeah, a little bit from time to time.
And it's a whodunit that changes as they discover
Haha,
No.
joke's on you. I was the killer. No, I'm ahead.
Now, this technically is... People think of it as being a remake of the 1954? I can't remember what year it was.
Yeah, the thing from outer
Yeah,
space.
Thing from Outer Space, which I have seen bits of, but I can't really remember too much about it, so I can't reference that one too much.
It's about plants or something?
Well, the main villain, as it were, was a guy in a suit, of course, and he was sort of a plant monster that was growing other versions of itself in the lab.
So like Little Shop of Horrors?
Sort of. Except there's no song and dance scenes in that one.
Oh, what's the point?
But technically, it's not based off that. It's more closely based off the original short story by John Campbell, I believe, and it's entitled "Who Goes There?" And I have read that one. It's been a number of years, but I do remember it. This, by the way, is John Carpenter's wife at the time, Adrienne Barbeau, I think.
And isn't that the only female thing that happens in the whole
Yep,
movie?
and that's the only actress in the entire
this
film,
beautiful sausage
and also
fest.
our first casualty, technically.
Oh,
Bunch of dudes hanging out in the Arctic in their long johns, man.
And that's
Antarctic,
actually
rather.
super important too. The fact that it's just a bunch of guys. One of the foundations for this entire story is the idea that all these guys are up here because of their personalities, and they all have loner personalities of some kind. So they're all very naturally very distrusting of other people for all their various little reasons. So that's supposed to feed into the plot. And
Yeah, because they're constantly being forced to act as a group, but the group is dysfunctional and weird and doesn't work properly.
one of the things that happens, I'm sure, during filming, I know it happens during writing. I don't know much about being on set or anything, but I do know that during the course of filming, you can develop a lot of ideas on set that don't technically carry over into film unless you tell someone in commentary that they exist. And I feel like that sort of happened with this film. John Carpenter, if you've seen any of his other films, Escape from New York, The Fog, Big Trouble in Little China, obviously those are not really anything like The Thing at all.
No.
They're usually very silly. Even the ones that are more dire are also kind of stupid, but that's part of their charm. So the fact that he made this at all is amazing. And I think they even said a lot of that was because they had to halt production for so long that he was basically forced into going over and reevaluating the characters and spending more time on the script than he normally would have.
What caused them to stop shooting?
Because of the fact that they were, at the time, filming in in Alaska, and the conditions got so bad that they just had to stop. They actually filmed in Alaska, then they went on set in Burbank, I think, and it was actually like 100+ degrees at the outside at the time, 38 degrees Celsius actually, on the Universal lot whenever they were filming most of the scenes. And then they relocated and filmed the rest in Stewart, British Columbia.
Well,
Here's the first dude and gets blowed the fuck up.
I never understood why you would try and get it instead of, like, running away.
Well, I guess once you commit to it, the first second that you start trying to do it, you're kind of in it for good. I'm sure that dog.
To think of
licking
all the
him must
problems
really
we
be
could have
fun.
solved if one person could have spoken Norwegian.
Yeah. And he actually is speaking Norwegian there. And I think that he says something like, stay away from it, that's not a dog, or something like that.
Oh, so it doesn't give away the plot to any Norwegians watching?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Oof.
By the way, it's impossible to break a window like that.
What if it's a really shitty thin window?
Well,
In the
that's the
Arctic.
point. In the Antarctic, where they would have bases like that, they wouldn't have shitty windows. Unless you count the
I
character
was
windows.
shot.
I love his reaction. Like, that's one of the things I love about this movie. It's not the plot or anything. It's the actors do such a good job of delivering everything. And the fact that they deliver lines like that, like, it's a very real thing. If you've ever been in, like, a real traumatic situation, people don't act like they do in movies, where they're, like, screaming and going through theatrics. A lot of it is just people being very calm and just trying to communicate the information that they need to communicate and actually behaving themselves and, doing the best they can.
Yeah.
Good job, Childs. Yeah, stomp out that one piece.
We actually had a dog for a while that was half wolf, and it acted a lot like this. It eventually vanished of its own accord because that's kind of the problem with half wolf dogs.
Yeah, it couldn't absorb you.
No, it gave up. It didn't want me. This movie
look at that
actually went through
magnificent
quite a few
beard.
writers before it entered production. And I think it entered production like in 1979, technically. But Bill Lancaster was brought on. They started talking to him in 77, but he only actually came on in 79. But he and Carpenter went over the script so many times that they were actually cutting the film up in the very last days before it went to theaters. But Lancaster came up with the blood test. He came up with the entire Norse scene. Mm-hmm. And he also came up with the idea of reducing the cast down. In the original story, it's 37. And
oh, that's too much.
Yeah. It's
How many are in this version?
12. Yeah.
That's perfect. 12 angry men.
He also changed McReady from being a meteorologist in the original script and to just being a helicopter pilot.
Oh, that's much better, considering we just had that shot earlier of McCready going first goddamn week of winter as he stands there as, like, radiant, hairy man, which is perfect.
It took him, I think, like 8 months or something to grow that out.
Wow. Oof.
Funny thing, and one of my big kind of criticisms of this film is the same criticisms that people had whenever it came out, is that it's more special effects than it is storytelling or characterization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of the actors do an amazing job, but they don't really get what they need for the characters themselves to really come through the script.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of sequences where it feels like Stan Winston's like, fucking hold my beer, I'm going to show off with this puppet.
What, in this film?
Yeah.
Really?
Though it wasn't Stan on most of it. I forget the name of the guy who actually
Rob
did most
Bottin.
effects. I think Stan got brought in for the first dog monster.
A lot of people worked on it. Rob Bottin was the lead as far as the special effects go, but he had a team, I think, originally of like 30 people. And that grew to the very end whenever they were doing the Blair puppet. They had 50 people operating the final boss of the movie.
Oh, man.
Oh, but Lancaster in the original version of the film didn't want the thing to even show up until near the very end and have it be more atmospheric. But Bottin himself decided that he wanted more special effects in the movie. You know, he wanted more work, so he really pushed for the script to change to orient itself around his special effects work.
I honestly think the balance is quite great.
It's
you'll
not
have
too
an
bad.
encounter, and then you'll have 20 minutes of nothing.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have liked it better had it been only at the end?
I don't know, man.
I was
like,
whenever they first
What about
announced
you, Eli?
the sequel / remake, whatever they want to call those, soft reboots or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I knew it was probably going to be trash because it's modern day movie making. But I also was sort of mildly hopeful because I thought, well, maybe we'll get something where someone writes it to be more atmospheric and more about the fact that there's all these loners operating together that intrinsically do not trust each other. But now it just was a beat for beat remake, unfortunately.
No.
There's our good boy.
oh, look at him. Oh, pretty. I want to pet him.
You probably shouldn't
That
get too
dog
close
actually
to
does a
him.
really good acting job.
That's really
He
incredible.
does.
It's so
In the
unnatural, I suppose.
Yeah, in the DVD commentary track, they even say that a lot. That there's a lot of times where they were filming and the dog like doesn't get any cues. It'll just stop directly in front of the camera, staring at a room, and then after like the perfect amount of pause, it'll just go inside. And it did that all on its own.
That sounds really lucky.
Talented dog.
And apparently, they didn't need too many takes either,
Wow.
just because the dog's behavior was so spot on for what they wanted. Best actor in the movie.
Look at that weird dog. It's so weird
Beautiful.
looking.
Yeah. Like, it didn't really move, but it was really emotive, you know?
I was shot today. Can't lean in too close. Don't want this song to pick up for YouTube.
Man, that's everybody gets their little character moment. I love that one where it's like, I'm pretending to turn it off for me.
One of the guys that got called in to audition for Knowles' role actually didn't even audition. He just came in to rant about how the depiction of Knowles was racist and backwards. And then the meeting was over. He just left. I can't remember what the dude's name was.
And that's the guy who got it?
No. Here's actually that shot that I was talking about. How the dog just...
the dog just accidentally does it perfectly?
Like it almost goes in one room, then kind of decides, no, I'm going to go over here and look in this other room. And here's the infamous shadow on the wall. Who is that shadow?
I don't remember every character's names, but...
To me, I look at it and I say, well, that's transparently Norris.
Yeah.
The guy with
Norris is the kind of overweight guy with the big poofy hair.
Yeah. That's him.
Yeah, the one whose head comes off?
Well, don't spoil anything for our viewers, Pat. But yes, his head comes
Oh,
off.
come on. They're watching a commentary track on a movie. They should have seen this movie already.
There are some people that have never, like, whenever we did the first contact thing, a lot of people that say that I've never seen Star Trek, I've never seen this movie, I'm not even watching it right now. I'm just listening
that's
to
weird.
you guys talk. It is weird. I mean, watch the movies, guys. If we're doing a commentary track for something, it's probably good or at least entertaining in its badness or something.
Hey, here's where a inferior movie happened.
A much inferior movie. And actually, I believe...
You heard about what happened with the special effects in that, huh?
Yeah.
Were they CG and not practical?
So they were CG and not practical, but they had actually shot the entire movie with practical effects, and then the production and the executives
not
were
modern
like,
enough.
no, the kids like the CG look. They're going to think this movie looks old and bad. So they had a CG company completely redo every shot in the movie.
You can still find the original effects on YouTube.
And they look great.
Of course they do. Practical effects.
The set right here, I believe, is actually filmed at the end of the movie. And this is actually the set of the destroyed Outpost 31.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
And this reused it to save money. Because production costs were becoming a thing back in 1981.
Where do you want to film it? Alaska? Fuck off, John.
He insisted. Carpenter insisted on filming everything on location aside from like set details, which greatly increased the cost, and was part of the reasons why that his career was almost ruined by this movie. Because after the fallout,
I remember the reviews were not kind to it back when it came out.
Why? Isn't it it's a modern classic, isn't it?
Well, now it is. And a lot of that happened during the 1990s whenever it got a lot of air on television. And they got that because it was cheap to air because it did so poorly in the box office. No one wanted it.
I remember reading the reviews from the 80s and it was basically, it's just a schlock monster gore fest for teenagers.
I actually had a lot of that saved for the very end, but people, whenever it came out, people criticized the fact that it focused so much on the special effects. Roger Ebert said that it was scary, but all of it was just special effects, and that the actor performance suffered. People loved the actor performances, but they said that the characters themselves had almost no substance. Carpenter himself thought that people hated it because it wasn't heroic enough. Like, it didn't end in a stereotypical, like, big budget movie fashion. The director of the Thing from Another World, Christian Nigby, actually hated it as well. One of the actors from the movie, Kenneth Tobey, said, if you want blood, go to the slaughterhouse. Like, that was the perception of it. That was just this ultra-violent, no-character, like, slaughterhouse film about nothing. Of course, that changed over the course of the next few years. By the mid-90s, it was considered a cult classic.
Yeah, by the time you hit the mid-90s, everyone decided that they loved horrible violence.
As much as I enjoy this movie, like, it does have a lot of flaws in its writing and its characterization.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot of things that are in the script that make perfect sense that just... I'll bring it up again later, but Norris, for example, has a heart condition. He has, like, heart palpitations, I think. Mm-hmm. And that comes up visually, in the movie, but there's no one ever says anything about it, and there's no reference to it before that point. So whenever you see it happen, you're wondering, what's going on with him? What the hell's happening?
I remember it took a long time for people to figure out what happens with the keys, and then it was somebody rewatching it, like for the 100th time, caught a sound effect that had been put in because it was so poorly called attention to in the actual film.
Whenever I watch this on stream a lot, whenever I'm doing drawings, especially during October, and I always make sure to point out and ask everyone watching to notice what happens with the keys. Because the only thing you get is one of the characters saying, "I'm going to go get the keys," and then you hear like the sounds of keys dropping, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great detail because it adds a lot of context to the scene that happens like a couple scenes after that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to be that guy, but is his hair naturally like that?
McReady or
Kurt Russell?
Yeah, this is his hair.
Just beautiful and
he's a magnificent big
Jesus.
man.
He was a lion of a man back in the day. The effects work, Rod Button. His first little stint was technically King Kong back in 1976. Although his first solo break was The Howling, a werewolf movie back in 1981. And that famous American Werewolf in London transformation was actually his mentor that trained him. And that movie came out like 4 or 5 months afterwards.
I fucking love that shot. Or they just quietly focus on this bullshit.
Yeah, this weird cube. Yeah. I love the reading right here. When he comments on what the hell is in there? A man or something? I just love this casual delivery. I really associate with this kind of acting with the 60s and 70s, where people acted like overly natural, I guess is the way to describe it.
Yeah.
They kind of brought that back in the early 2000s where everyone just kind of mumbled everything, you know what I mean?
Everything that you hate because you can't hear a goddamn thing.
I can't hear anything, man. But this I can hear because it's just very natural, but...
Mm-hmm. And the scenes are otherwise completely quiet.
Yeah. Although I do love the score.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The main special effects guy, by the way, wanted to play the part of Palmer in addition to doing all the special effects work.
Really?
But they said, no, dude, you're already like doing a million things. You're not doing that too.
Look at that weird dog.
There's actually a bunch of like weirdly like high profile names that were associated with the movie that all their talks fell through. Including...
Yeah, like the one that I always forgot until I get to the opening credits is Morricone did the fucking music.
Yeah. But that has a story in itself, too. But as far as actors go, Christopher Walken, Jeff Bridges, Nick Nolte, Isaac Hayes, and Jay Leno were in talks about this movie.
Jesus.
And in hindsight, you're like, thank God none of them actually got in.
Yeah. Probably the most famous names in this are Kurt Russell, Keith David, and Wilford Brimley, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Although Richard Masur, the guy that plays Clark, went on to be the president of the Screen Actors Guild back in 95.
Huh.
Which one's that?
Clark's the guy with the dogs.
Yeah. That's another thing.
Clark.
In the script, it definitely describes him as being obsessed with the dogs. Like he has more affinity with animals than he does people. And that's,
it comes off.
Yeah, it sort of comes through in the film more so than something like Norris's details. But I really wish it...
In my opinion, Norris is already the thing right now.
I don't think he is. Well, no, I take that back. I'm so used to correcting people on Blair that I have to do that. No, you're right. Norris is.
And he's looking at the thing and he's like, oh, crap.
Mm-hmm.
But then the dog is still also the thing, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because it can split as many times as it wants.
Oh.
Is consuming the matter and energy of another living being and then remanufacturing it.
You know what always blew me away? I mean, it's I'm a little early, but the lack of care any character takes in handling the thing's body is astonishing to me.
Yeah.
like Blair's going to put on gloves in a little bit to do an autopsy, but he's only going to put them on to his fucking wrists.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, look at that. He's got
Like-
blood on his forearms. What does he
Yeah,
care?
they're operating like fucking Scully, like eating pizza. I don't know what I'm seeing. I always love it. Like, whenever I was little, I was like, ew, but now I'm like, I love the surgery scenes, mainly for Wilford
They're
Brimley.
great. It's so weird. I watched this back in the early aughts and did not realize that was Wilford Brimley until like
Who
5
died?
years ago.
They cast him
Because-
specifically in this role because at the time, no one knew who he was, and
Playing
they
Doc?
wanted an
No,
everyman
he's
to
not
be a
playing Doc.
nose.
Oh.
He's playing Blair, honey.
Oh, sorry.
The reason I don't recognize him is because he doesn't have his fucking
Look
mustache.
at this. That eye staring directly into the camera. Always laugh
Oh,
at it.
God.
I'm an evil puppet.
So much detail on that face.
I'm your puppet.
I'm also kind of shocked at the you described it earlier, the casualness of the characters. Like nobody starts freaking out and going, "What the fuck is that? Holy shit!" It's so overtly horrific,
And
and they're all kind of chill about it.
it happens a couple times. The big reveal where they pull the sheet off the corpse, that sort of thing. But the material that they used to create that effect of like the sort of fog or whatever you want to call it was actually like it actually stank so badly that all their reactions of like gagging were completely real.
Oh, perfect. I can't imagine being stuck in a room with people, essentially that rec room, for what, a year?
By the way, this is the guy
Shit,
that
you
everyone
kidding.
insists you look like.
You can't even stand being in a room with me for more than an hour.
Well, you're special.
That does kind of look like you, though, Pat.
I love how
Yeah, I know.
passive he is.
Why don't you be that for Halloween? That'd be easy.
Just be
All
the
black
dog.
and an orange vest.
But then I have to shave my head.
And you have to get some weird
Yeah.
gloves for later.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Some very weird gloves.
Here we go. Every time I drew a picture of Tim from Undertale being guided into a kennel full of other Tims in a very sinister way. I always put that on screen anytime this comes up on my Ricardo streams.
Oh, I want to see that.
So look, these is regular ass dogs being lazy. This is a natural dog behavior.
This is the good boy room.
You know what I like about this?
The way that dog
So
lays
there's-
down.
No, not that. I'm
Yes,
just
you
thinking
do.
about, because Clark's looking at this fucking weird ass dog being weird, right? And he thinks nothing of it other than it's weird. One of the big problems in a lot of zombie fiction is that it takes place in a nonsensical world in which zombie fiction doesn't exist. And this has the same problem, except this is an amorphous, matter-absorbing nightmare. So, yeah, no. There wasn't really a story about that kind of thing prior to this movie. So, of course they wouldn't know.
Ugh. Ugh.
Of course, a lot of this was filmed in reverse. That is to say, they filmed it one way and then played it in reverse to make it look more bizarre.
Yeah, there's a couple of the stop motion shots that you can kind of tell
Oh,
are
God.
reversed.
Of course, this is so authentic they had to ensure people knew that the dogs were not actually harmed in the course of filming this. Aside from just spraying them with liquid and making them go, what the fuck's going on?
No.
Haha, we sprayed goo on the dog. Haha. The goo is candy.
It matted the dog's
Candy for
fur real
dogs.
bad.
Yeah.
This film has a lot of amazing line reads, and another one's coming up. It's really bizarre how everything goes quiet.
Goes quiet for the script.
hell no.
Of course, I think these are just locust sounds, but I always associate locust noises with
Oh
bizarre monster
yeah, here
noises.
comes one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I love his reaction. He goes from 0 to fuck this shit in like 10 seconds at most. Over nothing but dogs howling. And he's already got a gun. No one even told him to do anything. I don't know what the hell's in there. One guy without pants. Keith David, all he knows is that there's an alarm and that someone wants the flamethrower.
Why? Why would they? What?
What's going on? What are we melting
Pretty
ice?
interesting that they would just believe him right away. That there's a blobby wolf spider.
Well, no, I don't think he even knows that.
No-
I think
no
he
one
just
knows what's
yells
going
at
on.
them, "Get me the flamethrower."
Presumably, this has been going on for like a couple of minutes, so only like he and
Oh God.
Clark
Clark.
know anything. Yeah.
If Mac wants the flamethrower, he probably has a good reason to want the flamethrower. And then they show up, and they're like, "Oh,
Paige, you like crippled animals, don't you? How about this one?
Oh my God, it's got like a.
I love
Jesus.
him.
I like that one better.
Well, I think he's been claimed.
I don't like crippled animals. I like special needs animals.
He
These
has a
look
lot
a little
of
more than
needs.
special. Oh my God.
I love this reaction, of course.
Clark."
He loves the dogs, so naturally.
Yeah, we get that, but
Aw.
do you not see what is occurring right now?
Well, they don't really understand anything that's going on, just that an animal's being attacked. Here comes Childs, has no idea what's going on. Look at their reaction of them staring through. Child's like, huh? What am I burning? Ice? What?
Oh my God.
He doesn't know what's going
I
on.
love that he's just like,
This is dog tongues, by the way.
he's befuddled.
That flower that opens up that you see for like half a frame,
It's
made out of dog tongues.
it's like a plant and like some kind of weird amalgamation of everything it's ever touched.
Yeah.
That was the pitch that Rob Bottin gave to Carpenter, because they were going over what exactly the thing should be, what kind of monster it's going to be. And Carpenter, the one thing he didn't want was a guy in a suit, because that's what he grew up with. So
Yeah.
that was his one condition. And Bottin kept pointing them and saying it can be anything it wants to be, because, you know, it's been across thousands of worlds, and who knows what it's touched.
Yeah. Is that why when it reached up, it had almost like a dinosaur claw?
Yeah, fuck it.
You know, why not?
Yeah, does whatever the...
Like a talon.
Like, imagine how freeing that must be if you're the guy that's making this shit. It can be anything, anything? Awesome.
At the same time, terrifying because you're like, oh fuck, there's no limit.
Of course, now...
I really get a feeling like, did Carpenter or Bottin ever talk about the inspiration from like the Mountains of Madness? because
they list quite a few things as inspiration, but I don't think that's
because like the Shoggoth with its like thousand eyes and like unknowable form from this area.
Now, people have definitely raised parallels to Lovecraft afterwards, critics, but I don't remember in interviews them ever saying anything about it. I love Blair's reaction now. Like in the prior thing, he's like, oh, it's a normal set of internal organs. Now he's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Fuck this. Oh my God. Son of a bitch. And he doesn't even know what he's looking at. He just steps away and the scene just fades out.
It's like, okay, what's your opinion, Blair? No.
One of them crawled into the. One of them crawled up into the thing, didn't it?
It was trying to pull itself up. Whenever I watched this for the first time when I was a kid, back in like 84, 85, I thought, oh, one of them got away, didn't it? But no,
That's what yeah.
later on I just noticed, no, it's just pulling itself to the ceiling because it's trying to get away, and they burned it, and that caused it to drop down.
Right.
That shot is especially fucked up. But I do remember, to this day, and even back then, I was like, they just realized this thing is imitating these dogs, so they're keeping them alive?
It's absurd.
And Clark doesn't understand this conversation.
And also appears to be a huge weirdo himself.
Mm-hmm. What was that dog doing? It was just wandering around. Why?
Licking people.
Peeing everywhere?
Yeah, why didn't they put that one in the kennel?
Because Clark likes the dog.
I was alone with the dog just long enough to be assimilated several times over. Why? Why are you looking at me weird?
What's up, Blair?
So he's at the
He's suspected.
well he's at the lab because he's the dog man, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So each of them obviously has
Yeah, Windows the radio guy,
Right.
etc.
Yeah. Of course, this is an absurdly low amount of people that you would ever have at a research
yeah.
base like this, but it works for the movie.
Because what happens
Yeah,
if
funding is
McCready
low.
gets sick? No one can fly a helicopter anymore?
Of course, a lot of the things like, why would they have so many dogs? Well, of course, they use sledding dogs. Why do they have
Of course, yeah.
flamethrowers to bite the monster? Well, they're surrounded by ice. They always have flamethrowers at an Arctic base of any kind. In the original short story, they solve the problem by using, I forget what it is, but they use electricity in some way to get it to come out of a person because they can't control its form.
like a worm.
It's really strange. And by the end of the short story, they realize that over half of the personnel have been infected. And it's a really weird ending. They just go around doing this to everyone, and there's no real thing where half of them decide, well, we're going to get found out, just kill everyone or anything. No, they just slowly go through all of them, then they realize who it is, and they just solve the problem, and that's it.
Really? So it's a happy ending in the short story?
Not exactly, because at the very, very end, they see birds flying to the mainland, and they're concerned that one of them might be infected.
Yeah, this kind of story would make it it would be laughable if it was an area in which there was regular wildlife.
Oh, if this was
Or even
anywhere.
plant life.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine the thing, except there's grass. You're fucked. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The grass would look really gross for a little while, and then
Why is there a
then it would be the
brown?
end of the
Yeah,
earth.
why is there a brown ring extending from one location outward in all directions that goes away over time? Huh, that was weird. Oh well.
lucky us, this thing landed in a totally inhospitable alien wasteland like the Antarctic.
I'm so glad they have the spaceship scene, but they were smart enough to know, do not go inside the spaceship. That is the smartest thing in this entire film, is knowing what not to do.
Whereas the remake / prequel spends its climax
Oh,
inside
God.
inside the
There's
spaceship.
a big,
Well, to be
ugly,
fair-
stupid CG sequence of them dodging things as the spaceship activates. It's so terrible.
To be fair, they probably had to go in to get the thing, right?
No, actually.
No, because the thing crawled outside.
Yeah, that's what
after the crash.
they find that later.
Right.
They find the square section that they dug up, but that's where the alien came from. It somehow either was thrown free of the spaceship or crawled out and then froze in the ice.
Oh, I see. I didn't see the remake.
And he,
Well, no, you didn't have to because
No,
they
I
explain
know,
it
I
here
just-
too.
I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. Now he explains it.
that's
here.
big ass matte painting, right?
It's nice looking. I'm sure it doesn't look quite as nice on the Blu-ray, but
Shouldn't he be?
they're being pretty liberal about the backscatter effect, but there is an explanation for how come no one's noticed this until now.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is.
Also, shouldn't they all be wearing thicker coats?
Oh,
Yeah.
they're fine.
But then they wouldn't be seen for the camera.
Yeah. I don't know if this is on like a location in Alaska or British Columbia. I assume it's in Alaska, though.
I like that we're watching it with subtitles on, and "thing" is capitalized.
Yeah. Same here. They wanted Palmer's character to be a comedian played by a comedian, and that's where like Jay Leno came from, like names like that.
Oh.
And this guy's name, I think, is David Clennon.
I don't understand Childs here. Like, he just flamethrowered a flesh monster, but he's like, alien ship, that's ridiculous.
Well, he's a very pragmatic man. I can understand him being in the stages of whatever, but in denial right now. When I first saw that scene, I thought, well, that's a weird cut. What do you guys say with this, Blair? That's the filming crew, I think, right there. That photograph. And Blair has kind of shut himself off because now he's realized we are kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now he decides to run the test on how fucked they are.
The original version of this scene, I think he was just writing things down and explaining it to himself or explaining it to someone else. And this little assimilation thing was actually post-production work that they hired some lady, I think, out to do. Which, of course, the idea of a computer doing this in 1982 is ridiculous.
It's laughable.
Wow.
And, of course, in the 2011 or whatever movie, they have a scene like this, except it's even more CG. And it occurs before this movie takes place, which is even more laughable.
Don't worry about it. Like, in order to run this test, wouldn't he need to have some of the cells on hand?
I guess you could, like... Well, of course, the program itself is ridiculous, but the general idea that a cell can ingest another cell and so on, I guess you can work with that.
Thanks for helping out, computer.
I love the detail that he has a pencil with a extra eraser on the end, indicating that he does a lot of erasing work. He's always at work doing that.
Well, that and those, like, in-pencil erasers suck.
They do.
Yeah, they're
Smooth
worthless.
Everything.
I'm going to need more Smirnoff for this.
And a gun. Why would Blair keep a gun in his drawer?
Actually, I don't know the exact reason for it, but having guns in a base like that is actually super common for whatever reason.
Don't know when somebody's gonna go stir crazy.
I guess the logic is that since they're so isolated, they'd need a way to defend themselves in case anything at all happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's another minor detail. He was wondering about those ripped up pajamas or whatever.
We'll come back to that later.
Yeah. There's a lot of like storytelling that only occurs in like very short visual sequences. Including
Like
this.
they're touching it.
It's fine. Get drunk. Everyone's watching them.
Then he's looking at them, watching him.
Mm-hmm. I just want to get up to my shack and get drunk.
I can't believe Windows right here.
He should just lean down and lick it. I was curious.
It doesn't even look dead. Like, it's
No.
not even burned on most of it.
So there's your key information. I need the keys.
Windows is going to go get the key from Gary.
Mm-hmm. Go get the keys from Gary. And this little scene coming up of him getting taken or whatever was added in post-production as well. Like really close to the film coming out.
Really?
Yeah. They just brought in Peter Maloney. This is the actor's name. They brought him in, got him undressed, threw some KY jelly and orange dye on him, and some rubber tentacles, and that was it.
Oh, shit.
He's an amateur writer as well, thankfully. That's all you had to read.
Why did he have to only tell McCready?
Because he trusts McCready, because McCready's a fucking badass.
Mm.
And he knows McCready will shoot whatever he needs to. Okay, he's got the keys, listen.
This would probably be my reaction, too.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Keys fall.
So that's how they get
Keys
to the
get
blood.
lost, yeah.
Ah.
My favorite detail about Windows, the actor Thomas Waits, I think his name is. Love that line. He just runs up and says it's Bennings, and they all know what's going on. But he got the part because he, whenever they were dressing up for rehearsals, he put on those glasses. They were just lying there, and
Oh,
he
he
put
put
them
on
on.
the sunglasses?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they just liked the look so much. They're like, okay, you got the part. So there goes Pat.
Hey, look, it's me. I'm going to fall down next to this kerosene.
Oh, anywhere but here.
I also like that this establishes a timeline where it needs about, 5 minutes total?
Yeah, it doesn't take long at all.
Oh, he was so close, too. Jesus Christ.
Ow!
Fuck!
Oh, this plan was terrible.
I thought I would be safe. Oh.
Yeah, he's fucking dead.
He's
man.
my friend, burn him.
Yeah.
We must burn more of your friend.
Burn Bennings.
They finally have
See,
enough
this
sense.
is what they should have done at the beginning. 'Cause they burned the shit out of him.
They even find at the Norwegian base, they tried to burn the shit out of this thing for some reason. Huh, I wonder why.
Let's just take it back.
This whole process must have been even more rough at the Norwegian base, because they didn't have any context clues at all. Notice anyone who's not here?
A lot of people, actually.
1, 2,
Blair's
3,
not
4,
here.
5, 6, 7, 8. Bennings is gone, so that's
Yeah.
2 not here.
Clark's not here. Blair's not here.
I think Clark is here. No, wait. Yeah, I think Clark isn't here. I think you're right. Blair definitely is not, though. Here comes...
9.
There's Charles.
where's Blair?
And who's the one other person missing?
I
Because
don't
Bennings
know.
is dead, and there's one other person out there.
Norris is there, right? Is Palmer there? I don't think Palmer's there.
It's kind of hard to tell through all their equipment that they were wearing.
I assume that was kind of part of the point.
Yeah.
Is
What?
that once any of them are outside more than 10 feet away from you, you can't really tell who anyone is.
Oh, yeah.
One of the criticisms that people had of the movie whenever it came out, of course, and even now, is once they realize this, they should all be in the same room together for the rest of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Or in groups of 5.
But remember, these people are extreme loners. That's the last instinct they have.
Also,
know?
Blair's the only smart one, him and the doctor.
Yeah.
The rest are nerds or jocks. But not smart nerds.
Well, Fuchs is also smart, but he's also... his dorkhood is overriding everything else, though.
Yeah.
Which ones are the scientists?
Fuchs, Blair,
I can't remember what...
the doctor.
I love how he goes jogging off like a rascal. He's been at work on those machines.
For some time now, yes.
McCready, of course, is the helicopter pilot. Childs... I don't know what Childs does specifically. Knowles is the cook. Blair is one of the scientists. Copper...
Norris is a scientist, right?
Copper is the doctor. Fuchs is another
What was-
scientist of some sort.
What was Bennings?
Nerd.
Like, they have unspecified jobs. This is one of my
Wow.
problems with the script, is there's a lot of things in the script that never make it to the movie. And that's one of them. It's like, what do they do? And it doesn't really matter.
Because they're not doing it for most of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Blair. You really fucked that up.
Like, if I actually had Wilford Brimley here, I would love to ask him how much fun he had with this scene in particular.
Oh, every one of his lines here is amazing. Oh, man, the subtitles just said Blair chattering incoherently.
Also, a nice detail is you can count the number of shots that he has in that revolver, and it actually works out perfectly.
So that was 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite discussions in this movie is Blair taken right now?
I don't think so at all.
No.
I also don't think so.
No.
It doesn't make any sense otherwise.
But it's a fun conversation to have.
Oh, yeah.
Because if he was taken right now, it would make sense for him to fuck it all up and attack them.
Usually the only people that say that are the people that are obsessed with the idea that the thing is just a virus, which is another discussion that I hate having because I think the idea that it's a virus is insipid.
No, that's dumb.
Because if it's
Big
just
chunky
yeah,
thing.
It's something that has to transform to assimilate things, to ingest them.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just a virus, you could put a hair in someone's drink and you would be done. Or even just breathing in people's skin cells, which you do every day.
Well, they would already all be turned by now.
Yeah, there would be no need
From
for
the
a
gas
movie.
coming off the dead one.
Like, it would just be a movie about, oh, there's some sort of airborne infection going around. I'm a little bit sick. And that's it. That would be the movie. This is a small folding table. Love this right here.
3,
4,
Four.
5, 6, 7.
5,
6,
6,
7.
7.
And he's done.
Yeah, I think he fired one before all that started, too.
I love that he throws the gun and it just uselessly hits the
Yeah.
wall.
He's really pissed off. This old man is not taking any shit.
Oh, shit.
I'll kill all of you.
I always, like, that's one of my favorite line deliveries in this entire movie. Is Childs is saying, "Come on, man, you don't want to hurt nobody." And,
I'll kill you.
and he immediately follows it up. I'll kill you.
Clark is upset.
At least he hit them in a spot where it would kill them instantly.
Yeah.
Oh. So he decided to kill the dogs anyway?
Oh yeah. Well,
But
I mean,
that's
Blair
the
was,
smart thing to do.
Blair
Yeah.
was fucking up everything around this camp.
He was destroying all the vehicles so no one could leave, even though one of the vehicles works later.
Ostensibly, if like they had not caught him wrecking everything, he probably would have gone around the camp and murdered everyone. Just to make sure.
Why am I here? What happened? You kind of...
At which point, he probably would have lost a one-on-one confrontation with the thing at some point.
Which
So
presumably...
it was a bad fucking plan.
So the entire reason why he was cast in this role as an everyman is so that you would forget that he's out here during the course of the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah?
You'd forget he's what?
You forget he's out here.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is the entire point of casting someone that you would forget about as an actor, because at the time he was not well known. I want you to trust in the Lord.
So you're not thinking, oh, what happened to Kurt Russell? Where's Kurt Russell? It's just like...
I love that. Like, this is also another smart move. If anyone would be infected, it would be Clark.
Oh, for sure.
And which one's Clark? I hate to be
The
that
dog
guy.
man.
handler, yeah.
Right.
I don't blame
Weird man.
They don't really mention names the way most movies
I have watched
would.
this movie a dozen times, and I still don't know some of these characters' names.
Even as many like I've watched it probably 30, 40, 50 times, and even I will forget who their names are.
They're all wearing appropriate coats except McCready's wearing like something I would wear in like 40-degree weather.
Well, luckily, he has a mane
Yeah.
to protect
true.
him. Like, look at this scene. It is very difficult to actually tell
Who
who
is who? Yeah.
two of these
Who is
actors
who,
are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's McCready, Fuchs, Childs, Copper, and I don't know who the fuck it is on the left, on the far left. Is that Gary?
Yeah, Copper and Gary right there.
Okay, but yeah, like,
I love that line that Charles has had, where he raises the question: if something is a perfect imitation, how in the world would you know that it's not them? Because if presumably it has all your memories, it has all like the circuit pathways of your brain, so it has your exact personality. It can do anything you can do in any way.
So it would know slang that you would use.
Like it would know, it is you. Like it is you. It's just that it's a version of you that wants to also assimilate everyone around you. That's the thing I found the most interesting about the thing, is that it turns into you.
That's so fucking scary.
until it decides to not be you anymore.
Yeah.
But then it could be you later.
Like even
if you
its
wanted.
even its cells are your cells, except somewhere inside of them is like ancient knowledge and a desire to consume everything.
So at this point, it was either Norris or Palmer that got to the blood.
But you had to have the key, right?
Yeah, but the keys were on the floor right next to it,
Yeah,
actually.
in terms of spoilers, yeah, it would have to be Norris, Palmer,
Because
the dog, maybe.
Windows dropped it.
Yeah, Windows dropped it.
Oh, the dog's gone. What's amazing to me is that Gary does not remember. He's the one that had the key, and usually he only gives it to a copper, the doctor, for obvious reasons.
Gave it to Windows, special circumstances.
But he doesn't remember doing it, even though it just happened.
Well, granted, he's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's
They
the
just
reasoning.
burned his friend.
Windows remembers. I love that about this scene. Windows backs away because he realizes, oh, holy shit. I know exactly where they were. They were in my hands. But he probably doesn't even remember dropping them. So even he doesn't know
Yeah.
where they are.
Why doesn't Windows just fess up?
Windows doesn't trust any of them.
Windows!
None of them trust each other. Because they're all loners.
Yeah.
Another one of those things that I wish the movie carried through a little bit more than it does. Gary's already killed someone. I appreciate Gary's 3-point stance that he's using with that gun. He's actually holding it correctly.
Like, this is probably my favorite part of the movie, the ongoing next half hour, in which we have a scene here in which it could literally be, let's say, Gary and Windows alone are not absorbed in this scene.
Like, you have no idea who could possibly... Because it could
be
they all could
any
have been
combination of these people or no one.
That would have been another amazing way to end the movie. Just everything devolves, and it turns out, no, the problem is solved like in the first hour of the movie. And it's just been you killing each other from this point forward.
That would actually be fantastic.
But then Robert Botton wouldn't be able to show off.
Yeah.
The fact that Norris does not want the job is also really interesting.
Yeah. Thing is not confident that it could handle being in charge without getting
because
caught.
Spoilers page, he actually is one of them.
I was just gonna say, wasn't he the one that the dog first saw?
Supposedly.
Because that looks like his shadow.
Yeah. Technically, because of the poofy hair, it could also be Palmer, I guess. But to me, it's transparently it's Norris.
But both of them end up being...
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I guess
fine.
also it could be Windows. He also kind of has poofy little hair.
Yeah. Burn it. I feel like the person should have been wearing a hat.
Yeah.
During the writing, they did say that the first half of the movie was pretty well settled. They did go through 4 drafts, but what's his name? Lancaster actually struggled with the second half of the movie quite a bit. There was also a scene around here, I don't know where it happens exactly, where Childs, I think Bennings and McReady go out looking for infected dogs to kill them. It is,
really?
It is in the novelization, though.
Love the logic here of, like, at least one of you has to be a human left, because otherwise you would just all absorb me right now.
Yeah, I'd love that. Like, I really wish there was more of that.
One of the ideas that I like, it's my little headcanon, is that, and I always assumed that the movie was going on this, is that, say the thing splits into 2 parts, right? Part A absorbs a different person. Part B doesn't necessarily know that the new one is a thing at all.
And the
because
movie,
it's not telepathic. They're all their own entities.
Yeah.
Unless it knows, because it was the one that did it in the first place, of course.
Right, so the idea that there's like 5 or 6 things around looking at each other suspiciously because it doesn't even know.
Could it smell?
No, because it's perfect. It's a perfect
It
imitation.
it can only do what the host could do, presumably. Another thing I find really interesting about that is if it insimilated like plants or something like grass, it can't really do anything exactly. And you would think that its intelligence would scale with whatever its host is, like how much mass it has to occupy.
But
So
then if it were a plant, would it maybe use spores? And then it kind of would be a virus?
Well,
Maybe that's what
in
the
theory, it
happening
can
is.
do whatever its previous incarnations could do.
Do what, Plague?
In theory, it could do whatever its previous incarnations could do, I guess.
So maybe it just never got a hold of some plants.
Or maybe that would make for a boring movie.
So he hides this tape, and it never comes back up in the movie. But it does come back up in the sequel video game.
Yeah. The video game, it's too bad. I really wish that you guys would replay that a little bit, because your video did not go well because you couldn't get past like one interaction prompt or something early on.
Yeah, well, that game's not very good either.
It isn't, but the level right after that is like the best part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really, it can really freak you out because you're having to go through this building that's pitch dark and it's absolutely rife with things that are like
the game
outside.
also adds like some. It kind of fucks the movie's ending up.
Yeah, it definitely does
Which
that.
I dislike the game for that reason.
I also dislike the second half of that game because it becomes a shoot all the military personnel shooter for some bizarre reason, which destroys the
video
atmosphere.
game does settle the end, though, because I know the end is
Yeah,
a
that's
mystery.
the worst part about it, right? So all that ambiguity is just gone.
The entire point is the ambiguity. I'll get to the variations on the ending once we actually get to it, though.
Oh, seeing people go absolutely crazy to try and figure out a definitive answer to the ending is, like, hilarious.
Yeah, people come up with all sorts of stupid headcanon.
That's smart, Fuchs.
Whenever Carpenter was going through and finalizing the cuts, like right now, you can hear there's sort of music, but not really. And that's because Carpenter criticized himself. He's like, I can't use this because his music is overriding the pace of the scenes. So he did a lot of takes where he just went in and pressed like a single key and just held it. And he said there were more sound effects. Like, I was so ashamed of the fact that this man that I idolized, I was ruining his tracks.
Oh no!
By the way, you might wonder, is that noise something it was actually making? It gets used again later in the film, and no one hears it. So no, that's for the sake of the audience. Because if
It's
something
a spooky
actually
scare noise.
Because if something run past you in a dark hallway and it goes, you're not gonna poke out and go, "Who's there?"
Yeah.
You're gonna shit your pants and be done with it.
I would say, "Fuck this," and I would just leave the base and start running towards whatever the shoreline was.
Oh, shit.
Fuchs has probably the second most bizarre end, next to Knowles, who just vanishes from the movie. I ain't going.
See, I'm seeing this as Palmer wants to absorb Childs more than he wants to absorb Windows.
Maybe. Either that or he's in. Like, that's fascinating to me. He might be intentionally just sowing dissension for the hell of it.
Yeah. Right? And it's like, did the Thing rip up MacReady's clothes specifically because it viewed him as a competent threat
There's
to fuck with them?
There's like a 2D, I think, multiplayer game on Steam that came out a few years ago that is basically the Thing. I don't think it uses any IP stuff or anything. But it's multiplayer, and basically one person is the Thing, and you're like trying to do what they're doing here. Like, come up with ways to, like, sow
Yeah, there's a
dissension.
Steam multiplayer game similar to that. I forget the exact name of it. Oh, this shot's so good!
Yeah. They don't even address it.
Why are you hanging out next to a tiny noose?
Okay, so is he infected now is a better question.
I don't know.
No.
But I'd like to come back inside. It's probably one of the more interesting questions to me.
Because if it were the Thing, he'd probably be trying to hide that, or he wouldn't have that noose at all.
Or it could be, like, it's one of those, he knows that I know, so if he knows that I know, I'll double down on the fact that he doesn't know that I know.
And he's got to be infected between now and the end of the movie
Yeah.
because he's going to be building up a bunch of shit with parts.
It probably would be a better time later than this. It probably makes a little bit more sense for it to be later, because that's when things start really going to shit. And the opportunity, like, really opens up for him to get taken.
Also, can't anyone open that tiny door and infect him that way?
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
So anyone who's not there right now
Could be
could
infecting,
be infecting
Blair right
him,
now.
Blair
Yeah.
right now.
By the way, it's really stupid to go out in teams of two. That would be the perfect scenario for the Thing.
Yeah.
And I still have no idea what happened to Fuchs.
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Because, like, he finds the MacReady shredded, and then he's just dead. That puts a lot of fucking shade on MacReady.
Yeah. I think there's some things
Like,
in
for
the
the
movie...
audience, not necessarily for the
Yeah,
other people.
I think there's some things in the movie that are for the sake of the audience that don't necessarily make any sense under scrutiny. We're gonna go up to my shack alone.
Yeah, let's go together, one and one.
Just you and me, buddy.
Jesus Christ! Why wouldn't they at least travel in packs of 3s? You know.
There's no reason not to
McCready-
be together at all.
Like the whole gang together all at once,
Yeah.
every
Let's-
second of the day.
Let's go visit Blair, all of us at the same time.
Like they bafflingly leave Norris alone with the 3 guys they have tied up.
Jesus.
You can see him starting to struggle because he does have his heart condition. Which, again, they never mention in the movie, so you don't know what's really going on with him. He's not doing a very good job of nailing it, though.
No, he's not.
So interesting. So if the host has a defect, like a heart condition, then as does the...
Yeah.
I
Pretty
guess
cool,
it
isn't
could decide whether or not it wanted it.
But, I mean, he's having it right now. Which a lot of people, whenever they see the movie, go, oh, is it because he's infected and it's taking him over from the inside or, some other thing?
No.
No, it's just because the actual guy does have a heart condition. By the way, Charles Malahan, and I'm trying to be funny, but he actually did die of a heart attack in 97.
Aw.
And actually, fun fact for you, Pat, he died of a heart attack on his way. I don't think he was on his way, but he had gotten cast to be a part in the DS9 episode Honor Among Thieves.
Huh.
And he died before he could film it.
Weird.
It was the episode where O'Brien was a spy and he took care of a guy's cat after the mission got
I
him.
remember that.
So he would have played the guy with the cat.
So here's the thing I don't get. They were able to look at McCready's shack from the window that they're standing in.
Mm-hmm.
So how could McCready possibly get lost on that path?
I mean, have you seen an Antarctic storm?
I have not. Have you?
It's wild. No, but...
Well, they also have those tiny blue lights, the guide wire lights. They also have those, and those don't come out easily because I think they're driven really
I love
deep.
that this essentially turns McCready into a slasher villain for a second.
Yeah. He kind of becomes one, too.
I like Charles's attitude here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm willing to make as many sacrifices as I need to make right now.
Child's Kid David is really being an asshole, but he's also being like the most logical, reasonable person.
Like, if it was all Child's attitude people, like, this problem would not exist.
Yeah.
Of course, they probably would have killed a bunch of innocent people in the process, but the problem
But they
would
would have
solved.
saved the Earth.
What was Childs' job? Just
A
curious.
murder man, I guess.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah, it's one of those things they don't specify. I could look it up, but
Nah, it doesn't
He's
matter
just a
that much.
badass dude.
I was just curious.
McCready does look like a psycho right here.
Well, he has good reason to look like a psycho.
Burn me. Burn the thing with the fuse, stupid. They immediately drop it, but Childs is like, I don't know. Childs was actually considering burning him anyways, and taking his chances with the high explosive.
You might want to move those flares a little further.
Nah, man. Gotta be threatening.
Yeah, but one little spark.
Yeah.
Even now, though, you would have done this. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
Oh.
Oh! Norris is hurt.
Cool. Come on. I do
You just attacked me.
I do
A
really
bunch
like
of you just
Palmer.
attacked me. How relaxed can I possibly be? I fucking love Keith David.
This would have been such a... It wouldn't be the same film at all, but it would be so much more interesting if the thing had turned out to not have just died early on, and all this was just them killing each other.
Oh, yeah. Well, then we wouldn't get...
All these famous scenes, yeah.
yeah.
And coming up, one of the... Actually, I think I would say that this is probably the best looking special effects in the history of cinema for me. There's like
It's pretty good.
There's one spot where I'm like, holy shit, that looks exactly like reality.
For a doctor, he's doing a piss poor job at CPR.
Well, he's nervous. He's very nervous. He's probably got poo-poo in his britches, too.
Clark in the foreground has the knife.
Yeah, he's got that scalpel ready.
We got a whole bunch of shit going on in this shot.
And there's all sorts of crazy shit going on. Child's just like sneak it up on McCready from the side.
Jesus God.
Main criticism, that cartoony special effect gloop noise that they include.
That shot they do with him screaming with his arms torn off
Was a guy
they
with
actually got an amputee, a double amputee in, and put a mask of the actor's face over him for just that one shot.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Norris, you look great.
Mm-hmm. This is not it right here, but I'll point it out. Whenever he starts coming off the side, like that looks fucking amazing.
I always interpreted this whole scene as the chest part of the thing is reacting to being shocked with electricity and thinks it's being attacked.
Yeah. Look how fucking good this looks.
It's more important to burn it more.
Yeah, that's, if you're wondering about the dog kennel scene earlier, how come how come they put it out so fast? They're in buildings in a freezing environment. Of course they would. You don't want the buildings burning down around you.
Those priorities shift.
Mm-hmm. Whenever I was a kid, the spider thing was my favorite one. I would always get called into the room, like, here it comes, here it comes. I love its dumb hissing noise, too. I've heard it said before that the best form of horror is whenever the thing you're scared of is actually pathetic.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it's not actually that threatening.
Yeah.
And I find it weird that Palmer is the one that turns around and makes everyone aware that it's there.
Jesus.
If he hadn't said anything, I get the impression they would have not noticed it.
No. Jesus Christ.
Well, he's probably worried about his own preservation over the preservation of any of its... Like, that's what we're talking about right now.
Right.
Like, even different parts of Norris's body were not working to save each other.
Well, they could have been, in the sense of, I'll distract while a piece of myself separates. That's close enough, Clark. After all that, I think they're done fucking around. I love Child's reaction there. Like, Keith David actually plays it up as he's actually shocked that he went through with it. Because he realizes that could have been me a few seconds earlier.
Yeah.
So he's not... Huh.
I think this is probably the most memorable scene that most people are aware of. Even if they haven't seen the movie, they're vaguely aware that this scene exists.
I remember even before I had heard about this movie and before I had been recommended it, like, I had heard about it.
The blood test scene. It's just tissue.
But when a Star Trek shapeshifter bleeds,
It won't obey when it's attacked. In some of the original versions of this draft, Lancaster was writing what Carpenter described as post-Halloween writing, where it was more boo, ha ha, scary thing. Like guy running at you with a knife sort of writing. Like there was a scene when they went into the Norwegian base where a body fell down in front of them. One of those sorts of things. So they took a while to get rid of all those scenes.
I can't remember where I heard this, but I feel like I heard that they purposefully would not light whoever was the thing's eyes.
Yes.
So that whoever was the thing had dull eyes. Is that true then?
That's going to come up here in a second too, actually.
Ah.
Yeah, I heard that, but I didn't tell you that. I think we
No.
both heard it somewhere together.
Palmer
you can see
specifically on the couch. Yeah.
The windows and
Yeah.
and
They have light
McCready's
in their
eyes
eyes, yeah.
are well lit.
Because the lighting in this film was extremely purposeful, from what I recall, reading or hearing.
Well, they have a lot of control over it at night in the Arctic.
Mm-hmm.
They have total control over the lighting.
And famously during screenings, the audience had more trouble with these scenes, the bleeding your own thumb sort of scenes, than they did with anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
light there.
Mm-hmm. Light.
Of course, everyone suspects Gary the most. You're supposed to, because
Yeah,
he's the
because
one
of
that.
the blood.
Yeah, he's the one that had the keys, supposedly.
I suspected Windows the least, and I think that's pretty common, which makes sense why they would pick him first for the test.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my favorite part of the whole scene, where he says that and he gives him a weapon, but they don't actually know if the test works.
Yeah, you have no
Yeah.
way of knowing what the test is even supposed to do.
Like, there's a version of this scene that I really enjoy in which the test doesn't work for anyone.
Wouldn't
And they go, oh, I guess none of us are the thing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been really fucking weird if he had pressed his own blood and it went rah, and freaked out and he realized,
Oh,
holy
yeah.
shit, I am the thing?
Weird.
For a completely different movie, though. I do, like, some people have said, what if the thing doesn't know that it's the thing until it gets discovered? I mean, like, there's a certain...
That's dumb.
Yeah, there's a
I like
certain
that.
kind of minor appeal to that, but to me, them walking around knowing and manipulating everyone is way more interesting.
Oh, Childs, don't act like a...
You were
Honestly.
gonna
He's a
you were
dick.
gonna leave me outside to freeze to death.
What a turd.
It's pure nonsense.
Not true.
Oof.
I love the detail of the
Was not a
blood.
big fan about how they don't burn the blood,
Yeah.
which can now get any of them.
That's why I think that it has to be like an organism that
Jesus
attacks and
Christ.
seizes you.
And the award for dropping the ball goes to Windows.
Yeah. By the way, whenever he flings up to the ceiling here, that little piece of tile obviously flies down and then back up.
Oh, what a bummer.
There was a more complicated version of this scene where he was supposed to like run up the wall onto the ceiling, and they were going to use special lenses in their camera to like rotate the frame as they do it, but it got too expensive. I do love how frantic
Sucks,
the
'cause I-
scene is, though.
I love Windows.
Yeah, Windows is nice.
Not so much this puppet, though.
No.
If only there was
Not
a
great.
cliff or a big dam to throw him off of. I always love this scream, though.
I love it. Yes, it is very fun. Now that's a man in a fucking suit right there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Brave-
that's not. That
that's
was a
brave
dummy.
man. Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is super dangerous. By the way, right here, like, watch Kurt Russell's reaction to this explosion. Because that is fucking real. They put too much into that, and they said if it'd been just a little bit closer to him, he probably would have died.
Oh shit!
Like, he actually was shell-shocked as a result of that.
Burn the windows.
Oh.
I love him getting burned here because you can almost hear it in his voice, but you still hear him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you have to wonder, is it Windows that's burning alive right now, or is it that thing and it's consciously?
I always interpreted it as being like half, like he's half transformed.
Yeah, you really have to
I don't
wonder.
think he was. Yeah.
You have to wonder what their mentality is whenever they are being taken over,
Yeah.
because I'm sure like pieces of their brain are like being assimilated. They're being eaten and killed from the inside out.
It's gross.
I love how cautious Knowles is. He's like, I'm not fucking around. Cut me loose, god damn it. Of course, they all still suspect Gary.
Yeah,
Wait, why do they still suspect Gary?
because he's the
Keys.
only one who could have gotten that blood.
Oh, yeah, they haven't done him yet.
Which is another thing I don't think comes through that well in the movie without watching it several times. Because you're so caught
here's
up
a
in
great
all
line.
the violence.
Gary's had a rough day.
Mhm.
Did they test the two bodies? Back
Yeah,
then?
they did.
Okay, and they were both human.
Yeah, that's why Childs goes, so you're a
That's
murderer.
right. That's
then."
right. That's right.
Donald Moffat, I think his name is. Moffat. The name of the actor playing Gary. Did a bang-up job of that delivery. It's a weird sense now. All of them know that they're all fine.
Yeah.
Except for Blair.
So got to check Blair.
Yeah, we'll just leave Childs here.
God damn it.
Why?
So stupid.
So
Yeah,
here's
why?
where a shit ton of the arguing starts to happen over the ending of the movie, because as they see the door to the shack is open,
Yeah.
which means Childs could be turned right now,
Yep.
like as soon as the camera cut away.
So stupid.
Like, if I looked outside and I saw that door open, I would be like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
All four of us get to go out all at once.
Or better yet, let's all stay inside and then just pretend this never happened. I ain't going out there.
Well, somebody came in to get him.
Yeah. And you can sort of feel the fact that they were, like I said earlier, the second half of the movie is kind of not as good as the first in the sense of things kind of just start happening. You can
Very fast
You can
as well.
start hearing. You feel that right here, yeah.
Wait, how long has Blair been alone out here?
A day and a half, I want to say.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how long the days have been because it's always dark.
Right?
Mm.
And the other thing is that it's like, let's say he got turned 2 days ago, right?
Mm.
That version of him has been hauling ass
Mhm.
to do this shit.
Like not only building that motherfucker, but just burrowing this.
Like he has
Space.
a fucking drill set up down there.
Jesus.
How'd he drag that down there? Without anyone noticing, even.
By the way, I really appreciate the logic of this, but the fact that his flying saucer is so adorably tiny is really harming the overall tension for me.
Right? Like, would he just lay down on his tum-tum and drive it?
I like to imagine that a Futurama anger dome comes up in the center, and then and then Blair, Wilford Brimley, just takes off and spins off into the night.
Well, like that little pod compared to the big saucer
Oh yeah.
has one of those things where, like you were talking earlier about how smart it is that they don't show the inside of the saucer,
Mhm.
because the the worst thing they could do is show like the command console that the fucking thing sits at,
Right.
because that would let you know what's it actually want to be most of the time.
Right. But it did in the sequel, right?
Yeah, it did.
So
Oh, yeah,
may I
show a
ask?
lot.
Everything is tall and there's no seats.
Oh.
Because I guess it can spread out as much as it wants.
Well, that kind of still lends to
Yeah.
some mystery.
You also
And with the tiny little saucer here, you get to see, like, it could honestly just be a fucking cube with an arm if it wanted.
You also don't know if the thing was piloting the ship or if it was on board with a crew and was assimilating them in the process of going to Earth.
Yeah, it could
Good
be
point.
some bullshit they picked up.
Oh shit! Good point.
And it only knows how to build that
because
because it assimilated them.
right.
Like, you never know what the hell this thing is. Which is why it's called the Thing.
Yeah, the other thing about the thing, that is worrying is that, like, it can increase its mass to a degree.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not infinitely, but, like, some of the monsters that it has become are much larger than the people it was inhabiting.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, in my back of my head, I'm like, how fucking big could, like, a man-sized thing actually get?
What's interesting to me is if it can survive being a small puddle of blood and work its way back up to a human host, how is it retaining all this knowledge of how to build spaceships? Like, where's
DNA, man.
Where's its brain, and how's it storing
Super
information?
DNA. Its brain is in the mitochondria.
Especially if it's replicating everything down to the mitochondria and its DNA, to where if you test that, it looks like the exact same cell.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
And also, they're a harbinger of your doom. So right now, the thing wants to be frozen. It's given up on trying to escape.
It's like, I'm actually doing a really bad job with these guys. These guys have done a very admirable task of murdering me. So fuck it. I'm going to go for a timeout.
So that one track right there, for some reason, is still operable, which never made too much sense to me if Blair destroyed everything, but whatever.
Yeah. You were saying something?
Just at what time is the rescue team supposed to arrive? They did contact them, right?
No, they never ended up contacting them.
They never managed to get a hold of anyone.
Window and Gary complain how they can't get through to anybody. So ostensibly, it would be fucking months before anyone came down here.
Oh.
So,
by the way,
they
people
know this
that
is a suicide mission they're doing, right?
oh
now.
yeah, big
yeah.
suicide.
And by the way, the people that actually work in bases like this down there have a annual event where they watch the thing the same time every year, which I find to be super fun.
That's terrifying.
I think that's cool.
It is, but it's also terrifying.
Oh yeah, sure.
Especially
It's
after
twitchy.
that stabbing.
It's
that
twitchier
just
every
happened.
year.
So if you guys are listening to our commentary track, for one, why are you doing that? Secondly, hello, we appreciate the work you're doing. Don't kill each other.
Oh yeah. Don't do that, guys. Keep an eye on Clark.
Yeah.
He's twitchy lately.
It's always the guy that keeps the dogs. 100% of the time.
No, you know what it is? It's the guy who watches the thing in the big room, and he's getting nervous as he watches it, and then he leaves, and then you're like, wait, why did he leave? Did he leave because he's the thing?
Here's my question.
Is he breaking out of the
Do you
rifle
guys-
case?
I don't mean to be all like, "Ooh, I'm a feminism" at all or anything, as you know, but do you think this would have happened the way it did if like one chick were there?
Like, as far as in-universe goes?
I think the way that the story would have played out was that the woman on the cast would have been the character that doesn't exist in this movie, which is, guys, we should all calm down. We should all
Because that
learn
bitch,
to trust each other, right?
Well, that bitch would be doing the whole like stay together and no one would
Because it's weird because like in all these types of paranoid movies, there's always that character.
Yeah.
That character does not exist in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually write the woman to be the safe character because they don't want to offend anyone. So they're usually the reasonable person that doesn't have much of a personality, unfortunately.
Which would then lead to that character getting like fucking killed super fast.
That's kind of why I like Until Dawn. I can't remember her name. That one bitchy character.
Jessica?
Yeah. No.
Emily?
Yeah, the one that's so easy to hate.
Oh, she's just a fucking bitch.
But she's
No,
got such a personality.
If you really want to know, in the Thing soft reboot, the main character is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And it orients around her the whole movie.
But then again, it's like, why would you have a woman out here? Because first of all, period, right?
Of course,
Am I
Paige,
right?
yeah.
Am I right, fellas?
It attracts the thing.
That's right.
But the actual
Well,
reason
the Norwegian
is,
base had some chicks on the team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's not in this movie. That's later retcon.
Right.
yeah, but of course, the actual reason is, again, they're all loner men, which is more of a distinctly a male trait to be
Right,
like
exactly.
a loner asshole.
Yeah, that's what you referenced earlier.
Which, of course,
yeah.
there are plenty of women that work down there, but especially in 1981 when this is being filmed.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't actually give a fuck. I was just curious.
I think the dynamic of the movie would actually change.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it
think
would be
suffer.
worse. Like one of the
Yeah.
complaints
I agree.
one of the complaints from the studio was, "Hey, there's no romance subplot because they're just plugging things in, doing studio
A
stuff."
romance subplot would be probably the most nonsensical
Yeah.
type of narrative to add to
McCready
this.
probably beats it to the.
Yeah.
Hi,
to the-
Blair.
Hey,
Oh,
Blair.
shit, to the chess lady.
Look what he's doing here.
Oh my god! Oh.
Like, in a way, this is way more violent than anything else that's happened so far.
Oh yeah.
So, like, the thing that always it kind of freaks me out to my core is that you can see Gary looking around and trying to fight him off, like, for the entire sequence. Like, the absorption process, it's like you were talking about earlier.
Look at that.
It's slow.
You can just barely... You have to freeze it, maybe, but you can see, like, his face is, like, melted into his hand. And it's just formed this long strand of, like, tissue and, like, flesh that's streaming down into his skull.
Why would you do that, Knowles?
Yeah, it just wanders off. Because in the original version, there was something called a box thing monster that, of course, they didn't have the budget for. I think in the original drafts of the, like the little preview panels that they draw for it, they have him run into a bathroom and it kills him through one of the stalls. So they ran out of, like, time and production and everything, so they just have him wander off screen, which is super strange.
I actually really like that Knowles just disappears. Because we already established what happened to Gary, right?
Yeah. It does have
And then he walks, what, 10 feet away?
Yeah.
So Knowles is gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
He's just gone from the movie.
So we don't even see what happens to his ass.
No.
No.
And
Shit.
I like that this scene sets up, because what I was talking about before about the thing can increase its mass, but it can't increase it that much. So the reason why the upcoming monster is so large is because it had just absorbed Gary and Knowles
Mm.
and has no desire to be hidden at all.
It knows at this point it can probably just overpowering and have that.
Yeah,
be the
like
end
he
of
was
it.
talking earlier. It was like, if all of
Right.
you were the thing, you would all just attack me.
Right, exactly.
And
Like
now
a
they
big
are.
monster.
Like this motherfucker.
Although this happens so fast, it's hard to imagine they
Oh,
managed to
shit.
absorb Knowles at all. I think there is one variation of the script where they find Knowles' body later and he's like squashed into a trash can or something. Like his body's been completely ripped apart. By the way, this claymation, if you couldn't notice.
Yeah.
They
Hey,
originally,
Blair.
they originally had a longer version of it, but it didn't look particularly great. This thing, again, is being operated by 50 people at the same time.
Yeah. And there's the dog.
It's like an encore. The whole cast comes out for the curtain call.
A little bit.
It doesn't seem to have much of a plan, though, because they can't really move too much. But that's kind of just a convenience.
It's like, this'll really freak his ass out.
They said they couldn't quite figure out what his final line should be, and that's just something that he said in the various takes, and they liked it, so they kept it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Russell, figure it out. You're the character.
I mean, if I had to choose my last words, potential last words, I suppose, I would.
Like,
Those would be high on the
It
list.
really could have destroyed the movie if it had been some dumb pun.
Yeah. Like that was realistic.
Like,
you know?
here's something for you, or some dumb thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have liked it, but
Yeah.
I love.
But it would clash so much with the tone of
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are at the ending, which got
Man, this movie
reshot a
flies
whole bunch of
by.
times.
Jesus, that was 3 hours, wasn't it?
No, it was not 3 hours.
Maybe
It was an hour
one
and
day we
48
can do a
minutes.
commentary track for the sequel. Ugh.
Oh.
Ooh, I'd be down.
Never seen the sequel.
I haven't either.
Wait, you haven't?
No, I watched some clips of it on YouTube.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, it is.
So the ending got a lot of different variations.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did they shoot them or did they just write them?
Some of them. The original version of the script was both of them turn into the thing, and then the rescuers come and they both greet them and say something like, "I'm ready for a hot meal," or something like that.
Oh, that's lame. I
Yeah,
don't like
Carpenter
that.
thought it was really shallow and dumb. Carpenter insisted that they both freeze to death because he thought that was the most heroic the movie could get. And Lancaster was the one that actually introduced the idea of it being ambiguous at the end. And lots of people like, of course, to say, "Oh, you can't see Charles's breath," even though you clearly can.
Yeah, you can.
And some people
And
will say
the
things...
hidden flamethrower theory.
Yeah. Some people like to say, "Oh, he's making him drink gasoline." And there's all sorts
Yeah.
of weird, stupid theories people have. There, of course, was another version of this filmed where McCready is in Chicago afterwards, being tested, and they come back negative. But Carpenter thought that was really cheesy, but they filmed it anyways because they were afraid that test audiences would only like it if the film had a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another version filmed where there was no Childs. Like, he just went missing, and it's just him freezing to death in the cold alone. That almost made it to theaters. It was actually
So
replaced with this version.
one of the things people like to say is that they take screenshots of this scene and they go, "Look, you can't see any light reflected in either of their eyes."
You just did from Child's.
Yeah, but it depends on how open their eyelids are.
Yeah. This is very
And
dimly
it depends on
lit
the particular
shot in the
shot.
first place.
So it's one of those disingenuous little arguments that I hate.
Yeah, but neither one of them is the thing.
People are desperate to get closure on an ambiguous ending.
Which means that
Like
the
some
ending
people
worked.
get to an ending like this
Yeah.
and then they freak out and they can't handle it.
Yeah. I personally don't think either one is the thing.
The
I don't
game
think
goes
so
on
either.
to say that no, neither of them is the thing.
Oh, really? It does say that.
McCready escapes and is fine,
Mm-hmm.
and does not freeze to death somehow. And you find Childs' body.
Body, yeah.
Oh.
He froze
Do you
to
think
death.
McCready killed him?
No,
No.
he's just frozen.
Oh.
But the thing somehow survived. Also,
Oh.
Yeah, for the game purposes, yeah.
yeah,
Then again, a lot of blood did crawl away, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure enough, there you go. Bam, done.
So did Knowles.
Hey,
and so
good job, everybody. You did a good movie.
Yay.
on. Yay.
McReady.
Not for the time, though. Again, I do have a lot of criticisms of the film as far as I think it could have been done a little bit more psychologically. Of course, I'm more of a fan of things like Rosemary's Baby or The Shining or things like that, as opposed to Halloween. But maybe this was just filmed at the wrong time, like Carpenter thought, because he lost his contract. He lost the right to direct Firestarter whenever that came out. I think that was like an '84 film or something. And Carpenter famously would not even talk about the thing until an interview in 1985, 3 years later, where he said that he was called a pornographer of violence as a result of this movie. Which is kind of true,
So
because
stupid.
if you watch the movie without any of the historical context now, it really just comes across as just like gore pornography. Or gornography, like they're called
Suppose.
these days. Because that is a big
Okay.
problem in horror filmmaking. There's a lot of... I always get this impression of people that make horror films. They're either people that are just like, let's just crank something out and make a quick buck. Or they're the people that... They're sort of like mad in a way. Where they love how goofy things can be. They love the kills. And that's
Oh,
what
it's
they're-
gonna be
they're
so
interested
goofy
in.
when that chick's head comes off. Wow.
Yeah, and they have too much fun making it. Like, they're not storytellers. They're not telling you any story. They're just looking for an excuse to have a bunch of kill expositions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in horror filmmaking.
But
Yeah,
this
John
this
Campbell
film,
Jr.
I felt combined horror with that beautiful whodunit.
And
12
drama
Angry Men
and,
kind
and
of thing.
paranoia.
But
I
also
love,
consider, in 1982, I'm sure that scenes like this were, like, really shocking. So
yeah,
the
no.
the overwhelming
Good point.
nature of what the violence looked like probably really, like, downplayed any psychological elements the film had at the time.
Which is a bummer because, like I was saying earlier, my favorite part of the movie is about the middle third, where it is completely up in the air. Who is what? Where
took the
people?
keys?
It's
Yeah.
impossible to figure out where characters are in the scene
Who's
or
even
out
on?
of the scene.
Who's
Yeah.
even there?
Yeah,
Like, 'cause all the
it's
masks,
great.
Yeah.
As much as I love the little transformation sequences, I think they're amazing. Button did a great job, obviously. Like, even to this day, he's known as a legend. I think he retired in 2002. But my favorite part of the film is whenever it's just people just yelling at each other and being confused and trying to betray each other. I think that's way more effective.
I mean, that sounds like all of our streams, doesn't it?
Uh-huh. It's like, you think about it, it's McCready, Gary, and Windows all threatening to shoot or blow each other up, and none of them are the thing.
Yeah.
Like in that middle part.
Yeah.
I wish there had
And
been
Childs,
more.
technically.
I wish there had been a little bit more at the beginning of them not overtly yelling at each other, but suspecting each other, and there being scenes where everyone's like wondering and gossiping about each other and that sort of thing.
See, but that would be like 12 women in an
Pretty much.
Alaskan.
By the way, like
Or-
I was gonna say that the whole aspect of them all being men really works because it completely removes all like the like wondering about like anything sexual or anything, like all these other problems that would come up don't get involved at
Yeah.
all.
Exactly, yeah.
I think actually the same thing would have worked if it had all been women and nothing but women.
It would have more of the gossiping, more of the like, I heard Jenny's the thing.
Probably would have been a lot more like betrayal and literal and metaphorical
Sure.
Yeah.
backstabbing.
Although
Yeah.
since men are more known as being the loners of society, it works a little bit better if they're all men for that reason, I guess.
I completely agree.
You'd
Yeah.
probably have more scenes where it was like Gary and Fuchs have that one scene where it's like, can't, it's my buddy.
Yeah.
Right. If you had a all female cast and you'd have like smaller, more tightly knit groups that
Yeah.
weren't lonery,
Mhm.
you would have more of that of like, I can't burn Jenny.
Yeah.
She was my bridesmaid.
Yeah,
Jenny.
yeah.
It would have worked fine. Like, if I would have loved it if it had been an all-female cast and they had had the same sort of weird 70s delivery where it's just very dry and matter-of-fact. That would have been awesome.
So that would have been just a bunch of 12 lesbians, I guess, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
And all in their plaid.
Reminds me of what Plague was saying earlier about like you put a romance plot in
Yeah.
there. It's like the romance plot would have been terrible, especially because it could go well one way in which you're like, oh man, I really like you and I'm terrified for my life, so I'm finally gonna do it. I'm gonna kiss you, and then McCready's whole head gets absorbed.
Right, that'd be cool.
Right? It's like, oh, that was a terrible idea, actually.
Or what if he saw his girlfriend or whatever become the thing, and then just kind of
was-
ate it because he loves her, and he's like, I love her even though she's a creepy alien.
Yeah.
Or
Dog
maybe they
woman.
find
yes,
they
there
find
it is.
out that the guy was the thing the whole time. They had sex like the day before, and she's like, "Oh no, my womb! It's even more poison than it was yesterday."
Well, luckily that movie exists, and it's called Prometheus.
It's
Shut
also
up.
called The Thing because the remake did the same thing. There is actually sort of a romance subplot in that too.
Wait, they fuck the alien?
I don't think they fucked the alien.
I don't think they fuck it, but there is sort of a weird like romance sort of subplot thing going on in a
Something
way.
about your
boy.
delivery was like, I don't think they fuck it.
They come close though. So, by the way, Carpenter describes this, or he has in the past, as close to, if not his favorite film that he's made, and he just regrets its reception more than anything else. And more so, he regrets what his career could have been if this one movie had not sunk it for so long, which it effectively
Yeah,
did.
it's a bummer.
So, sorry, John Carpenter. You're not my
You did
favorite
a good
filmmaker,
movie,
We love you.
Really was a art from adversity sort of situation for them. So that was my favorite movie, The Thing. Really
That's
good
my
movie.
favorite movie, The Thing.
Still
now one of
flawed in its various ways, though. What do you think about it, Paige? This is your first time watching it without being completely drunk, wasted.
Yeah, I loved it. I remember what I do remember. I do remember enjoying it. What's interesting is that
We were
I
talking
remember,
over most of it this time too. So.
True. I do remember a couple of the scares, and I remember gasping, and then I realized I gasped during this watch through, and I remember almost laughing at myself a few times, like why, like it got me again, you know, that it's those special effects are genuinely frightening.
The one in particular with the defibrillator in the chest, it's so sudden and it's so
Yeah, because
Unexpected.
there's so
it's
much going
visually
on.
shocking.
Yeah, you have no time to really process what's going on either.
No,
Because there's like, there's Clark, like he's getting the scalpel and he's getting ready to make a move. Clark is getting ready to make a move. at the same time, McReady's ready to blow them all up. The whole heart thing is going on. The doctor's trying to do something. Then all of a sudden, just chomp. Then the whole scene just completely turns on its head.
Yeah, I'm still shocked that there was such a shitty reception of this film. I mean, everything about it is beautiful. The lighting, the score, the acting.
I'm more
special
concerned that no
effects.
one seems to learn their lesson from any of it. Like, people will reference this film constantly. The unused music tracks even got used in Hateful Eight, I believe it was.
Really?
Yeah. It weirded me out because I'm used to listening to the soundtrack, and then I started hearing, I think Bestiality is the name of the track, in the background of one of the scenes. Like, what's going on? What the fuck? But people
Weird.
will not learn their lesson about writing. They still are making these dumb, trashy... I guess because people enjoy making them, I guess. But anyways, thank you guys for coming out.
Glad to be here.
Our pleasure.
Maybe sometime in the future we could do something else. Maybe a worse film. Who knows?
Yay!
Yay. Disappointment. All right. So whatever I do after this will not be my favorite film for obvious reasons, but I'll see you guys next time all the same. So goodbye, Pat and Paige.
Goodbye, Pat and
Bye.
Paige.
Oh, God.